Well, good morning, everybody. We're getting ready to do a show. If you're watching me on Facebook or my channel, get this puppy moving.
Because no matter what, no matter where, you need the truth. And specifically, if you're listening from Newport Richey to St. Petersburg or from Tampa to the coast, you can get the answer on FM 93.7, always on AM 860, online at theanswertampa.com, and depending on where you are, on FM 93.7.
Dennis Prager here with a suggestion on adding luxury to your life. Add coronacigar.com to your favorites and go there often. Their selection of premium cigars, humidors, and accessories is unequaled. Shop for premium brands: Drew Estate, Rocky Patel, Padron, Davidoff, Punch, Florida Sun-Grown, Cohiba. This site is also a great reference for fun and exciting cigar events. Check it out, coronacigar.com.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic. Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Partly sunny today with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon and a high 87. Mainly clear tonight with a low 71. Partly sunny Monday with a high 88, and a thunderstorm around Tuesday with a high of 88. Plan with confidence. Download the redesigned AccuWeather app today. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Gregory Patrick for AM 860, The Answer.
Good morning. This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD. Got Ken by my side, and we're doing a radio show today.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, buddy. We're also streaming on Facebook. I don't know if YouTube's let me back on yet or not, and I don't really care. And you know what? Now we've got the Disinformation Department under Homeland Security being set up. Disinformation Governance Board, and the person they're picking to head it up is some whack job who said that Hunter Biden's laptop was fake news and disinformation, and said that who was this guy that did the report that said that Trump was in collusion with the Russians for the election? What was his name? Steele.
Steele, yes, sir.
She praised him, and so here we go. Now they say they're doing this so that they can intervene if the Russians try to give disinformation and interfere with our elections, and to stop the cartels from giving disinformation to Hispanics coming up through Mexico, because the cartels are lying to them so that they can get their little girls and sell them, and, traffic them. How's this going to work? It boggles my mind that people really think that they're going to be able to get information out to Mesoamerica, Central America, and on up the lower parts of the North American continent, and have people actually understand what they're talking about and dissuade people from listening to the cartel guys and trying to get out of Honduras and wherever else and come to the United States. Do you think that's going to work? Nah.
Doc, I think you misread the situation completely here.
I did?
Yes, I think so. This is the Department of Disinformation. They're supposed to put out disinformation.
I think they're going to do a good job, too.
I think they're doing a heck of a job.
So, It just, this is Orwellian. This is what what they have in his book, the Department of Truth or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while since I've read it, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's 1984 right here in 2022.
Let's see, we're only, 4 from 12 is, we're only, 38 years behind? But we're catching up fast. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there. So now everything's going to be censored, including your underwear. And, oh, God, this is ridiculous.
Well, look, they want to take away menthol cigarettes now. How are menthol cigarettes any worse than a normal cigarette?
I have no idea.
You're a doctor. You tell me. I mean, what? It's all going to give you a cancer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm of course I'm anti-smoking because I'm a doctor and heart specialist, and I worry about people and trying to guide them and take care of them. Kind of like my wingman here who doesn't listen to me all the time.
Well, I'm pro-menthol.
I don't know why menthol is getting a bad rap now. I thought menthol was pretty good. You could rub it on your body and it smelled good, and you temporarily think you feel better. And they used to
What happened if you started eating it, though?
put it into Vicks Vapor Rub. I think that it's probably like mothballs that preserve your innards. So
I don't know, but it's my brand of choice. You know what I mean? So,
hey, you know what? If people want to kill themselves, I can't stop them.
this is America. I have a right to kill myself.
I have a right to destroy my body. But the only thing I say is the problem is that when you destroy your body, then you become a burden to the rest of us. And so we have to take care of you, and that's going to cost society money. Insurance rates go up, hospital utilization goes up, so on and so forth.
Well, Doc, I hadn't thought about that. I'll quit immediately.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Well, you're going to have to quit menthol because Joe's taking it away from you, dude.
Oh, hey, believe me, the tobacco companies have billions of dollars sitting in an account somewhere just waiting to finance the legal fight on this. It's going to take years. Go all the way to Supreme Court.
I wonder if the Department of Disinformation will get involved.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They probably are already, yeah.
Well, on a more serious note, did you hear Naomi Judd died yesterday?
I read that yesterday.
76, pretty young. Her daughters say she died from her depression, which I guess means she might have committed suicide, but I don't know. They haven't released a cause of death. And I guess this was something she struggled with off and on all of her life. I just don't know. And might have been a prelude to some form of dementia, too. She was a pretty gal,
And they made great music, those two. They really did.
They did, and her daughter, what's the one that Winona was the singer, and the other one was the movie star.
Yeah, you never remember her name.
I can't. What's her name? Ashley.
Ashley, there you go.
Ashley, as Naomi, Winona, and Ashley. And I think Winona and her mom, they were the singing act. And Mom was actually the better looking of the two. But that's too bad, It's just sad to see people suffer with depression and not be able to get any relief and end up doing something crazy. But also, you see a lot of psychiatric illnesses that are preludes to dementia too, Ken. So that might have been part of the problem. She might have had a rapidly progressive form of dementia. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of what happened to Robin Williams, I think, why he took his own life, because he was headed in that direction.
Well, yeah, he was a manic depressive on top of it, so.
Yeah.
And I doubt that he ever really, he probably intermittently was on medication and under control, but he was a weird kid anyway, he kind of holed up in his room. I guess his family moved a lot. His father was, I don't know, corporate or military or something. And
I think he was military, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, that's an interesting thing to look at, I think, by a psychiatrist probably. And they probably have. But a lot of comedians are very depressed in real life and have been for many, many years.
I've heard that.
But yet they're extremely funny. I don't get it.
Well, I think that there are some things that will boost your serotonin levels naturally, like singing, exercise, laughter, and so there are things that you can do to help with your depression. Now, the problem is that you go out and ride your bicycle for a half an hour, and then you come in and you feel great for 3 or 4 hours, and then when the adrenaline wears off and the serotonin levels drop in your brain again, then you start feeling bad. And that's why we have medications nowadays. And we've done a great job in the mental health industry. I mean, it has come so far since I was a kid. I mean, when I was born, there wasn't hardly anything out there. There were a few antipsychotics and barbiturates and benzodiazepines. Then the tricyclic antidepressants came in the 50s. But now, and they're good drugs, but they have a lot of side effects. But now we've got the serotonin reuptake inhibitors and the serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. We've got the atypical medication. I mean, we've just got a ton of things that we can use on top of the old armamentarium. And there's help out there. There is.
But you got to ask for it, and there's a stigma still.
I think with some people there is. I think you're right. I had a patient this past week. Actually, I got kind of attached to him. And he came in a few weeks ago, and he had belly pain. And he's a little bit manicky, and it's taken me years to get him in tow. But I finally had him where he was on a regimen, losing weight, his sugar was getting better under control, and so on and so forth. And he said, I know what I have. I've got diverticulitis. I've had this before. And I said, well, don't you think we ought to get you in the hospital if you're hurting this much and get a CAT scan and get you on some IV antibiotics? No, I know what to do. I want oral antibiotics. I'll take care of it, and I'll get a CAT scan tomorrow or the next day. Well, he ended up in the ER a couple of weeks ago with an abscess in his belly, one of the little diverticular, one of the little outpouchings in his colon that got infected. Ruptured, and so he had an abscess in his belly, which is, of course, a serious thing. And so we admitted him to the hospital, and unfortunately, that next week I was out with the COVID, and so he was being taken care of by the surgeon and the intensivist, and then he got what's called a megacolon, toxic megacolon, Ken. That's when the large bowel stops working. It doesn't contract anymore. And, of course, it'll fill up with gas because you've got bacteria in there that act on any debris that comes through, and they release gases. And then his bowel got stretched, and then it got ischemic, which means that the blood supply was cut off to his large bowel. And then, of course, that's a crisis. He had multiple small ruptures in his large bowel, and fluid and feces all over his peritoneum, all over the inside of his gut. And so he went to surgery, and that has a high mortality rate in older patients or patients with problems like diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and he had all of those. And so he ended up with the colon out, in sepsis, went into kidney failure. Off and on, he started to get better. Then he had a cardiac arrest, and then got him back, and then he had another one, and then he was, basically gone. And so it's a tough situation, and you have to be really vigilant, and you have to look at the psychiatric side of it too. And as I explained to his family, that he was not the easiest person to get in tow, and they said, yeah, they know his wife had divorced him, but she was still conflicted and at the bedside, and his daughters were there, and one of them was pretty crazy, and she was yelling and screaming and cussing and taking pictures of the chart and threatening to sue. And I explained to him, you don't have any standing to sue. You're not dependent on him. You're not married to him. You're all adults living independently, and you got to cut this out and quit threatening the staff. It's hard enough to take care of people without family coming in and yelling at you, Ken, that they're going to sue you.
What's happened to just basic decency in this country?
Well, we've had this off and on ever since. I mean, I remember this even as a kid in medical school back in the 70s. My parents didn't have much threat of lawsuit because in pediatrics, the lawsuit rate is really low. But, the OBGYNs and the neurosurgeons, they've been assaulted ever since. And, of course, with more and more trial lawyers coming out and they need something to do, they've been looking harder and harder at what doctors are doing. But it's not as easy as you think to get a lawsuit, get a lawyer to take a lawsuit for medical malpractice. It's got to be a big dollar item for them because they spend a lot of time, Ken. They may have $200,000 to $300,000 in due diligence just to try to see if it's a case that's going to bring in any money. And then, of course, they're going to want at least $1 million in a settlement, or it's just not worth it to them.
That's why they're chasing ambulance. Get the broken bones. Those are
you can make better money easier by going after automobile accidents, because everybody's got that $10,000 or whatever it is medical on their auto insurance that's mandatory in Florida and probably in most states. So the lawyers figured, wow, if I can put $1,000 or $2,000 of work into this and get $8,000 out of it, and I get a third of that, I'm still ahead of the game, and I don't have to do much. It's pretty easy.
Well, what else is going on, Doc?
Well, do you remember when we used to line up at a fair and pay to see a fat tattooed lady? You remember those days?
Yeah.
Now they're everywhere. You can't get away from them. I mean, oh my gosh.
Doc, now that's not politically correct.
No, that's incorrect. So, did you hear about this kid, this young guy, Cancel, Willie Joseph Cancel, that joined a private military organization, and they were contracted to fight with the Ukrainian army, and he went over there and he got killed in action. Did you hear about that?
I did, yes, that's sad.
And apparently he was a Marine for several years, but had never seen combat, and he got a bad conduct discharge for violating a lawful general order, which I don't know what that is, but I'm guessing that he probably went AWOL to see his girlfriend or whatever. At any rate, he's leaving behind a wife and a brand new baby. And so if you think we're not involved, folks, believe me, we're involved. We're providing intelligence. We've got boots on the ground. We've got special ops people in. I'm sure they're in Russia, the Ukraine, Poland, Moldova. It's really cranking up, and the Russians are saying that this was going to end up in a nuclear war if you guys don't back off, because they're afraid that we're going to set up a missile system in Eastern Europe that has the capability of delivering a Tomahawk cruise missile that has a nuclear warhead on it. Of course, we're not interested in taking them off the map. We just want to declaw the bear, so to speak, take his teeth and his claws away.
Yeah, we just want you to respect everybody else's borders. That's all we really want. Play fair. Same thing with China. Play fair.
Remember, Ken, that the long-term strategy of Russia from the time of Catherine the Great, who was the Tsarina in the 1760s, almost to 1800, right in our period of revolutionary war. Our revolutionary period started in 1760, so she came into Russia at about the same time, and it was a time of great revolution in the world, not only militarily, but also intellectually, artwork, the Age of Enlightenment, and she really did a job to modernize Russia. But one of her goals was to capture enough territory around the Black Sea that Russia would have a permanent warm water port, and they've been fighting that battle ever since, and it doesn't matter whether it was the czars or the communist or the fascist Putin or whoever. This has been their long-range golden plan, and the Ukraine sits on the Black Sea, and Russia sits partly on the Black Sea. Georgia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania. Moldova is not actually touching the Black Sea. It's kind of sandwiched between the Ukraine and Romania. But the Danube does a little dogleg north and goes right on the border of Moldova and touches it, and the Ukraine has a little strip of land down in front of Moldova on the Black Sea, and so the Ukraine and Moldova worked out a deal in 2006 where they would get rights to use the Danube, so that they basically have a port, and that's important, especially when you're importing and exporting and trying to have a good lifestyle for your people. And the Russians did go into Moldova and took a chunk of land a few years ago. So now the Moldovians I guess they're going to be involved in this if they aren't already, quietly. And the Russians are saying, we're not fighting the Ukraine, we're fighting NATO. Do you know that they are actually saying that?
Sure. Well, they're trying to get their people behind them, 100%. They're not going to say we went in. Talk about disinformation department, Doc.
And
that's all Russia is right now.
Well, and
to their own people.
Well, yeah, and then we've got a lot of disinformation going on over here. Well, I'm going to keep us out of this war. Yeah, right. We're already in it.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Come on.
You can't send billions and billions of dollars in weapons to a country to fight with and say you're not in it.
No, I know. And then we've got our Secretary of Defense and what's his name, Anthony Blinken.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And who's the head of staff? Not Blinken, but the black general. What's his name?
Now you got me.
All right. We'll figure it out.
I can't remember his name.
At any rate, so he's saying that he wants to make sure that Russia can never do this again. And so basically he's saying we want Russia totally defeated, which is what we said about Germany and Japan in World War II, that there would be no conditional surrender. We backed off on Japan because of MacArthur. MacArthur said you've got to give them the one condition that the emperor stays as the emperor, because it would be so disruptive psychologically to the Japanese that they wouldn't be able to function. I don't know.
But he took away their power. He took away the emperor's power.
Yeah, but everything else was taken away. And he made the emperor, or actually talked him into going out public and showing the people that he wasn't a god. He was just a little shrimp of a guy like everybody else in Japan at that time.
Picture him standing next to MacArthur.
I know. MacArthur was, what, 6'3", 6'4"?
A tall guy, yeah. It was a funny picture, at least from our side.
So at any rate, the Russians are all upset because of the Aegis Ashore missile defense system that we've moved into Poland and Romania, and it's known as the Mk-41 vertical launching system, and apparently this thing can shoot interceptor missiles, SM-2, 3, and 6. But it can also launch a cruise missile, so the Russians are all, see, you're going to use this as an offensive weapon. You're trying to kill us. Like, we don't want to kill you. We want you to shut up and get out of the way. Sit down and behave. But how do you do that? I mean, I just don't know how you convince people that their behavior is way out of line, and I don't know. It just
I think Mr. Putin is going a little wacky. If you know what I mean.
Well, it's not just him. His whole little inner circle. They're all saying the same damn thing.
Well, of course, because he'll have them shot if they don't. I mean, look at the oligarchs that are dropping dead all of a sudden.
Well, that's true, but I mean, they have some power too. Even the czars and the communist leaders, they were very wary of those who surrounded them, and Trotsky was assassinated, and somebody tried to shoot Lenin, and of course Stalin was always thinking somebody was out to kill him, so he killed everybody.
That's right. Well, Putin's playing Stalin's playbook.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And Stalin was playing the czar's playbook.
Yeah.
So it's one thing after another. Meanwhile, on the other side of the globe, the Chinese, I guess, are struggling with COVID. And I heard that Beijing was locked down now. So Shanghai and Beijing, which is going to interfere with our supply chain. And what empire ever has been built on importing everything from somebody else? What is this? What do we do this for?
Well, that's our mistake.
I don't know.
We allowed that to happen.
We did, and Korea's Yoon, the new president, President Yoon, Y-O-O-N. So Moon is gone and Yoon is in. The moon has set and the Yoon is risen. And so this guy's a conservative, and so he's like, I'm not wasting time talking to Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un or whoever.
Whichever Kim's in charge today.
Whichever Kim is in charge this year. And he said that's fruitless, because Moon spent the past 5 years trying to play kissy face with the North Koreans, and that didn't get anywhere. The North Koreans are still shooting off missiles and getting ready to test more nuclear weapons. I think they're going to put one in Joe's underwear. And so Yoon said, "I'm not interested in this." So let's get the United States back in here. And so they're thinking of becoming the fourth member of the quadrilateral, the Great Britain, Australia, the United States. And it was India, but India is being nice to Russia. They're not really helping them, but
they're getting, what they're getting in return is about $35 a barrel oil.
Yeah, if they can get it down there. How are you going to get it there? There's no pipelines coming across China or Afghanistan or Turkmenistan down to India, and then you got to go over the Himalayas. They have to bring it in on tankers, and I don't even know if they're being able to load the tankers right now in the Arctic part of Russia because of the shutdown by all the big companies like Shell and BP and all these big companies said, well, since you guys are waging war on the Ukraine, we're shutting down our operations up here. They were doing a lot of the work. So I don't think that there's really that much. But what the Indians did say is they said, well, we'll accept rubles. And the amount they accepted is like, pocket change. But it was a symbolic thing. And so then Joe and his gang are like, well, you're bad people, you Indians, because you're helping the Russians. And the Indians are like, dude, they stood by us when you didn't. Which they did back in the 60s and 70s. We were back in Pakistan and helping the Pakistanis out when they were fighting the Indians a couple of times. But most people in India would prefer to have a good relationship with the United States, but they still have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth because of the relationship that the United States has with Pakistan, which is on and off and up and down. At any rate, so now Yoon is saying, this is silly for us to hate and fight with the Japanese. We've got a common enemy in China, and we better pull together. So he's reaching out to the Japanese. And, there's a lot of animosity still in Korea towards the Japanese because of what they did during the colonial period in the first half of the 20th century. They invaded Korea, the Korean Peninsula, and treated them like stepchildren and stripped them of their resources during the war. World War II took away trees. There's mountains that are still half bald. They're just starting to grow back now. Minerals and anything that they could get. Of course, towards the end of the war, they didn't have anything, so they were grasping at straws to get what they could. But, it's time to put that behind us.
We nuked them for it, so they paid a price.
They paid a price, and they've behaved so far. They haven't tried to step on any of their neighbors.
In fact, they in their constitution they couldn't even have an offensive weapon systems.
At least not openly.
Well, yeah.
So at any rate, Kishida, the foreign minister. Or as I guess he's the president of Japan, he said he voiced hope for a new starting point in which our two countries would build a future-oriented relationship while also squarely facing the past. So, the comfort women are still yelling about that, even though I think they're all dead, but the daughters are still alive, and so they still carry that memory. But we need this. We need these relationships. And we're not going to remain a world that's marching towards democracy if we don't embrace disparate countries that are now democracies, and if we don't work together as a group, and I think this is what the Russians are most afraid of, Ken, is that the world will unite against them.
Well, they're pushing people into NATO.
Well, yeah, they are, because they scare the hell out of you.
Exactly. What are these people thinking over there?
They think that they should run the world.
They think that they're so powerful they can do anything, I guess.
Well, it doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it anymore, boys. No.
I can't figure out what the hell they're doing. I mean, they can't even win a war against a little backwater country like Ukraine. So
Yeah, so now they got to threaten, we're going to use our nuclear weapons. Well, okay, we'll use ours then, I guess, if that's what you want to do.
well, if they use a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine, you're going to see NATO have to respond. I mean, because what you think the Lithuanians or the Poles want the Ukrainian dust blowing over and radioactive dust blowing over into Warsaw? I mean, they've got a huge border together, and Belarus is right there, Lithuania, Moldova, and the Moldovians are already upset with the Russians. What do you think is going to happen?
It ain't going to be pretty, Doc.
No, and we're not going to have a choice.
That's right. They'll force our hand.
And then they'll say, you forced our hand, and of course they'll say, see what Blinken and your Secretary of Defense and your chief military officer said, that they want to see us totally defeated. And what's that mean to them? And in their mind, that means you versus me, and me's got to
We want
survive.
you out of Ukraine, that's all.
Well, but they've gone beyond that, and so now we're saying, well, we want total defeat, so you can't do this again for another 100 years or whatever, which is basically what we said to Germany and Japan. We want you totally and completely crushed so that you don't try this again for a long, long time to come. And I don't know. I mean,
I don't know how it's going to turn out either, but hopefully saner brains will prevail.
Yep. Well, let's get a question out there and grab a cup of Joe, change our depends.
Wow, this show is half over. You're right, Doc. Look at that. My goodness. Just flying by today. Okay, today's question. By the way, we're giving away 2 Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mugs to the first caller at 877-969-8600. That's 877-969-8600. First person to answer this question gets those delightful, beautiful mugs. The question is, and we talked about this briefly, boy, if you blink, you may have missed it. So we'll see if we get a winner today, Doc. What can you see now, say, at your average Walmart, that you used to have to pay to see at a carnival?
We'll be right back.
What did you see today at your average Walmart that you used to have to pay to see at a carnival?
This is Dr. Bill, your Radio MD. I'll be right back, folks.
Okay, Doc, we'll be back in a minute.
All right, buddy.
Go anywhere. There we go.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. As New York City forges ahead with its recovery, the pandemic is leaving lasting imprints, especially on city roadways. Less room for cars and more space for people. As the COVID-19 outbreak ravaged the city 2 years ago, one of the world's most congested and bustling metropolises found itself transformed into grids of mostly deserted streets and sidewalks as businesses shuttered and virus-wary denizens shut themselves in. Italy and Greece have relaxed some COVID-19 restrictions, and a sign that life is increasingly returning to normal before Europe's peak summer tourist season. Greece's Civil Aviation Authority announced today it's lifting all COVID-19 rules for international and domestic flights. And President Biden, together with other dignitaries in Minneapolis, to remember former Vice President Walter Mondale. He died last year, but the service was held off because of COVID. This is SRN News.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of can care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411.
Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220. 727-577-2220.
Hey, Tim Cooper here with Health Plan Network. Are your health insurance premiums making you sick? Did you go with one of those high deductible, limited network, Affordable Care Act plans? Well, you're not stuck with it. Folks, there's a better option. My Freedom of Choice plan puts most of your coverage up front, where you only meet a deductible if you go into a hospital. You pick your doctors, and it's 30 to 60% lower cost than Obamacare. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call me, Tim Cooper, an expert with 25 years experience, at 813-212-2580. That's 813-212-2580, or go to healthplannetwork.net. That's healthplannetwork.net, and we can custom design a plan managed by you, not the government.
Hi, everybody. It's Megan Alexander. Join me the morning of May the 5th, alongside with Salem Radio, for the prayer breakfast. I am so excited to speak to you about how we as believers can boldly take our seat at the table in culture and talk practically about how we can encourage one another in the body of Christ. Join me for Christian Fellowship May the 5th.
Presented by Faith Talk Tampa and Word of Life Bible Institute. Register now at letstalkfaith.com and click on the National Day of Prayer banner.
AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com.
Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Partly sunny today with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon and a high 87. Mainly clear tonight with a low 71. Partly sunny Monday with a high 88. And a thunderstorm around Tuesday with a high of 88. Plan with confidence. Download the redesigned AccuWeather app today. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Gregory Patrick for AM 860, The Answer.
And I'm back. This is Dr. Bill. Got Ken with me today, and we're doing a radio show. How you doing, buddy? You hanging in? And I'm back. This is Dr. Bill. We're doing a radio show today. Are you there, Ken?
I am, sir.
I forgot to plug my microphone back.
Oh, I thought maybe you had spent a little time in the little boys' room.
Or you probably thought, did I hit the wrong button again?
All right, hey, we got a winner, Doc.
All right. Who we got?
I'm kind of surprised because we didn't talk about this much, but the question was, in case you missed it, and of course the question always deals with what happened in the first half of the show. Something that happened somewhere we talked about in the first half of the show. And today's question was, what would you find at your average Walmart today that you used to have to pay? And I figure as long as they're being, inappropriate, we might as well go all the way here. He used to have to pay to see at a carnival. The answer is, Doc.
Hey, that would be a fat tattooed lady.
A fat tattooed lady, absolutely right. And Bill from Odessa was your winner today. Bill, don't have the last name yet, but got Bill from Odessa. Last name is coming, I'm told.
Odessa, isn't that in Russia or the Ukraine, or where is Odessa?
I don't think it's in the Ukraine. No.
Oh, it's not?
No, I think it's a little north of here, I think.
Odessa, Florida.
Yes, Odessa.
Oh, I thought we were actually with Elon Musk and his Starlink that we were actually getting our show pumped out into the Ukraine. Well, congratulations, Bill, and thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
All right, Bill, nice going. That tattooed lady.
Oh, my
All right,
God.
we have about 20 minutes left. This show is just flying by here today.
I'm telling you, we're having fun. So the FBS, which is the Russian, I guess that's like the follow-up to the KGB, they have declassified testimony by Hitler's personal pilot about Nazi leadership's final hours. This is in the Russian news agency TASS this past few days.
I had not heard this. What'd they say?
Well, I mean, they act like it's a big deal because they're trying to stir up anti-fascism sentiment, and they're saying that the Ukrainians are fascists. So apparently, the Hans Bauer was the personal pilot for Hitler on his Air Force One or whatever you want to call it, and so he would see him intermittently because Hitler and his inner circle would call him in to plan on a flight somewhere, and so he saw him the day of his suicide, and they were actually, prior to that, they were organizing flights out of Berlin to get papers and documents and luggage and people out, and they were talking about moving the capital up to the Baltic, up on the northern coast of Germany. So that doesn't abut the Baltic Sea. That's between Denmark and the three Baltic states. And so basically he doesn't have really a whole lot more to say other than that it's pretty much true that Hitler was losing it at the end. But the point of this is that in the middle of this battle with this war against the Ukrainians, in which the Russians are saying the Ukrainians are fascists and they have to be denazified, the TASS news agency, which is the big old-time news agency in Russia, the largest, the oldest, it's been there since before communism came in. It was founded in 1905. That they're pumping out more hysteria about fascism.
They are the official mouthpiece of the Kremlin.
Yeah, and so who is stoking the fire of World War? I mean, you can say we have a part in it, but we're not the primary aggressor here, and we're not the ones who are stirring up the coals and saying, well, you guys are just a rehash of the old Stalin era. Nobody's saying that. So, but they're stirring their people. Yeah. Well, I think that they're the fascists now. Fascism.
Oh, yeah.
Fascism is when you have a strong man in a one-party system. You have free enterprise, but the state pretty much dictates what that free enterprise will be. And so you can go out and buy whatever you want and make what you want, but if the state thinks it's not of value, you're not going to get any support from them, which is different than communism. Communism is where the state controls both production and consumption. So they say, well, you guys need latkes, little cars or little junky cars, so we're going to make little cars for you guys. Yeah, but we want bigger cars. We want nice cars like the Germans and the French have. Well, you can't have them. You don't need them. That's bourgeois. And so here, by the way, you're going to do this job, get in on this assembly line and make this car, or we're going to take you out to Siberia and do bad things to you.
Which is exactly why the country never really was very good at development.
Well, the problem is they built, they built their whole economy for centuries on slavery, on serfdom, and of course that created a tremendous underclass that rebelled in 1917, 18, and overthrew the government, and they were easily manipulated because they were uneducated and without direction, and they had been stirred up great animosity towards the ruling class and the oligarchs back then, and so now they have that lingering memory, and they're easily manipulated that way. But basically, slavery doesn't work, and as we learned in our own country, we don't get anywhere with slavery. Ultimately, it hurts all sides. It hurts everybody. But our romance with slavery, lasted 70, 80 years as a country, and then it was ended. And it's taking time to rectify some of the wrongs, but basically I think we're doing really well. We have integrated faster than probably any country in history in terms of absorbing a slave population into the free population. So,
well, the one thing about communism is that it takes away incentive.
Yeah, it does, and that's what Washington said about slavery. He said, basically, there's a glass ceiling. You can only go so high, and even if you're the senior guy on the farm, if you're a slave, what can you do? You can't bargain for a higher position. You can't go out looking for another job. There's no competition. This is the same problem that Europe had in the 14th century after the Black Plague had swept through and taken away a third of the workforce. People who had traditionally been serfs on farms or tenant farmers, the kids said, I don't want to be here anymore. And the guy down the street's offering more money. I'm going to go work for him. Or they went and they said, I want to be a brick mason or stone mason, or I want to do some kind of job where I can build things and make a little bit more money. And the King of England even and Parliament passed a law and said it was punishable by death if you left your farm. Of course, nobody listened to him. They all left. And so it changed the face of Europe, and that's what happens. I think that we have an opportunity in this country to, if we don't get too crazy and jankety with our political correctness and our disinformation departments and all that kind of stuff, to really just be. We already are a very ideal society, but we could be 10 times better by just cutting the crap and continuing on the path that we're on. And like you pointed out,
in the United States, if you build a better mousetrap, you're going to be rewarded for it.
That's right. And if you build a better country, we'll come and give you a hug and a kiss. But there just ain't nothing better out there. And I'd sit in the lunchroom and listen to guys who have immigrated here from all over the world, people who have traveled all over the world, and we all say the same thing over and over, whether you're from India or South America or Europe, or wherever you're from, all the doctors and nurse practitioners and nurse anestheticists sitting in the lunchroom, and we all say the same thing. There's just nowhere like this. And I mean, we have people from Vietnam, from the Philippines, from South Korea, I mean, from all over the world, China. There's even one guy that's from China. There's just nothing like this, and but we can do it better than we should. We should continue on. However,
we should always strive to make it better. Absolutely,
strive to make it better, but let's not disparage who we are and what we have. To look inward and say, how can I improve myself is one thing, but for you to look inside of me and say you're a racist, that's counterproductive. That's not going to help anything. You know what I mean, Ken? I mean, it's going to create animosity and divisions between us. It should be saying, you've done a great job. The white America has done a wonderful job of assimilating black Americans into society. And you said before the show, even on the ads now, all the families, they're all mixed.
I know. You've got a white husband, a black wife, Chinese children.
Yeah.
Come on. This is, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal to everybody. They don't want to offend anybody.
Well, yeah, but when they had the Martian on in that one family, that's when
the antenna was way over the line.
Yeah, that was way over the line because I mean, Mars isn't even part of the United States yet. So Elon's getting there.
Well, what did Winston Churchill? I know you are a fan of Winston Churchill, I believe, are you not?
Yes.
Yeah. What did he say about democracy? Something it's a terrible form of government, but it's better than all the others, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you know what democracy is. Oligarchy or a monarchy or a one-man rule is a giant aircraft carrier with all of her support vessels around her, and she's got armor a foot thick, and so you can torpedo her and do anything and she won't sink. And then all of a sudden she runs into an iceberg and she sinks. But democracy is a bunch of inner tubes and life rafts and canoes and little paddle boats, and they're all lashed together, and everybody's fighting about which direction to go in. And the guys in the middle are warm and dry, and everybody's mad at them because they're taking advantage of the situation, and everybody tries to force them out and get into the middle where it's a better accommodation, so to speak. And then they bump into an iceberg and they bounce off and they keep going.
There you go.
And that's democracy, my friends.
That's right. But it is fragile. It can be taken down.
Of course, anything can be taken down, but let's face it, the march to democracy and to individual freedom and rights has been going on, at least in the English world, since since the end of the Roman Empire. It's been a march that has seen everything from Alfred the Great to the Magna Carta to Parliament, the English Civil War, and then our own democracy founded. So, I mean, there's been a lot of progress, and now we have several children of England who are functional democracies. And you even have the stepchild India, which is the largest democracy, and for as dysfunctional as it is, it seems to be working. You know, they're gradually pulling their people out of poverty and building up a strong nation. They have the fourth or fifth largest navy, the second, or they might even be the first largest army in the world. Their economy is 10 times that of Russia. Can you believe that?
I didn't know it was that big. No, I didn't.
And the Russians are such a small economy now. I mean, they're not even in the top 10 anymore. But so you've got Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, South Africa. You've got a bunch of countries that are children of England and are functional democracies. So we are making progress. It just takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't become a functional democracy overnight. You know, it took us a couple of hundred years to get to the point where what was Plymouth Rock, 1621?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Somewhere, and it was 150 years later that we had our Revolutionary War, and then if you want to consider the Civil War as the end of an era of really impure democracy, and of course then from there on you have the women's rights and the suffragettes and integration of black Americans and the Voting Rights Act. But it takes time. You know, these things just don't happen overnight. It's like Washington said, if he freed his slaves right after the end of the Revolutionary War, he would have thrown the country into a civil war immediately. The North and South would have been at odds. So he said our first job is to bring the country together and we'll work on the problems as we go. And this is something that it's hard to convince a lot of people of, is that you can't do everything all at once. It doesn't
compromise. You have to have compromise.
Well, you know, it's stepwise. You can't build a plane by going into a hangar with a bunch of parts and throw them up in the air and it'll come down a plane. It doesn't work that way. You got to start with the frame. You got to put the engine in. You got to skin it out. You've got the interior. You've got the electronics and the guys. Things take time to do, and it's a stepwise process. I'm having this.
It's an evolution. The government is an evolution here.
Yeah. It's just like us. You know, a kid doesn't come out of the womb and all of a sudden he's a 25-year-old guy out working in Boulder, Colorado for some advertising firm. It doesn't work that way. He's got to grow up, and he's got to put on weight and height and gain experience.
Learn, yes.
Yeah. And you can't expect. I'm having this problem with one of our board members. He'll only stay on the board, Ken, if we do it comprehensively what he thinks should be done. Like, it doesn't work that way. He wants to amend the bylaws, but he wants all the amendments to be done at once.
His last name wouldn't be Putin, would it?
Well, he's an Anglo Saxon, so what do you want?
Oh, okay.
He comes over here part of the year, and you know, I told him, I said, look, Brian, we've kicked your asses out of here twice now. Don't make me do it a third time. And I asked him, I said, look, you Anglo-Saxons, look at you. You're like 10 feet tall. You guys are relatively intelligent. You know how to fight. How the hell did the Normans beat you at the Battle of Hastings in 1066? He said, we've revised our tactics since then.
Their grammar is usually perfect. I'll give them that, though.
I can't understand half of what he says and writes. I understand the words, but his writing is so horrible. And he mixes his sentences and chops things off, and so I have to ask our other guy, JT, and JT, what the hell does he mean? He said, did you read it? I said, I got about 2 sentences into it, and I was like, this is 7th grade, writing. I can't read this stuff. I got things to do. So
2.5 minutes, though.
2.5 minutes, that's it? Oh, my God. So what are the Russians?
I know this show has just flown by today.
I know, and a lot of fun, too. So, the Russians, here's the bottom line on the Russians. They want to control the Black Sea. That's the bottom line. And they don't care who they step on to do it. And you got to remember now, this is an important body of water. You go through the Straits of Dardanelles, and you're in the Aegean, and then you're in the Mediterranean. And, of course, if you can control the Black Sea, you can control all the traffic coming in and out of there. And like I said before, you've got Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, the Ukraine, Russian Federation, Georgia, Turkey, which has a big chunk of land there. And that's what they want. They want to control that area. That's a main artery. That's one of the busiest arteries in Europe. A lot of trade goes back and forth.
145.
So it's a big problem, and don't think that it's just Putin. This isn't new. This has been going on since Catherine the Great. This has historically been going on since 1783, which is over 200 years, 250 years.
So why did they give up the fight after a while?
Well, you would think so, but have we given up the fight? I mean, no. We're still willing to go toe-to-toe with people on issues that we think are important to us. The Monroe Doctrine, which says that America will not be colonized by European powers anymore. And we still fight that. I mean, we still do that. And remember, all the American countries are independent of Europeans. Did you know that? Every one of us.
That's true, yes.
And that's because of Hamilton and his Monroe Doctrine, which Monroe picked up and said in a speech in 1818 or whatever, back in the day. So that was a tremendous thing that he did.
So we got about 30 seconds left or so. You want to
let's pump it out. Or something? Let's pump it out, baby. The office is still open. We're doing a big business. We're there for you. We got plenty of time to see if you're sick. Give us a call at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. We've got ultrasound, echocardiogram, x-ray, lab. We can take care of your heart, your lungs, your ears, your nose, your toes.
10 seconds.
And I'm out of here. Thank you for being with us today. I am Dr. Bill, your Radio MD. Have a good one, Ken.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Bill, your Radio MD. Join Dr. Bill every Sunday morning at 9 for more insight, information, provocation, and fun. Dr. Bill Handelman practices in St. Petersburg, Florida at Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic, 6399 38th Avenue North. For your convenience, telemedicine appointments are available. Call his office today at 727-384-6411. That's 727-384-6411. Or visit his website at cancareclinic.com.